I believe we should be advocating for immigration reform in order to ensure that all of our families stay together.
Hermanos y hermanas, aquí está su promesa.
OSEA here with us affiliates with our values, with the fight, with the justice that we want to serve in our communities.
We as healthcare professionals see every day how people and families suffer when they can't access the healthcare that they need. We will provide the leadership our lawmakers need for passing a public financing plan for the country's first universal healthcare system.
We showed our government here in Montpelier that our communities and our members of our local unions are very serious about reclaiming the promise of giving universal health care for all.
The One Newark plan that will bus our children away from their neighborhood schools. We still have schools that are underfunded, and the voices of the people are ignored.
Cammy Anderson has to resign and leave.
We have a solid plan to oppose the One Newark plan that is a million times better than...
What the Newark Promise program does was we don't want to close any school down. We want to take that and focus on that school, get that school built up to where it needs to be so it's an effective community school within the area.
Well, it means that we're starting to set our own agenda. Say, well, this is what we want.
The reporter asked me, does this mean that under your leadership, there are going to be more protests like this every day? Well, I said, hopefully if we're doing the right thing under my leadership, we won't have to have those protests.
Newark said these are our schools, our kids, and they're not for sale, and we're going to reclaim the promise.
We need to figure out where we can put our tax dollars in education over incarceration.
They're putting all the money in prisons, and like, why not schools? You know, do we not matter?
I'm saying invest more money in the people so they can make the economy better.
In higher ed, working class kids and even middle class families can no longer afford to send their children.
We will tax big oil companies and bring forth $2 billion of revenue into higher education. We have an invoice for Chevron and let them know you owe us $2 billion.
On this 60th anniversary of Brown versus the Board of Education, and schools are still separate and unequal. And corporate America is trying to privatize them. Well, we say no more.
I came here to help in this fight because this fight is important. To try to stop this type of thing that they're doing to students of color.
My high school is overcrowded this year. We don't have the resources that we need to succeed and go to college.
There's no AP classes where they're taking gym online, art online. This is not what they meant. 60 years after Brown versus Board of Education, we need to help ourselves. Yes. We together need to change the trajectory to make sure public education is the anchor of democracy.
Our schools threaten to become the shame of the nation, as were the Jim Crow schools of the South in the years before Brown.
The educational policies have been making the job a little bit harder because we don't have the supports we need, we don't have enough staff.
It's not okay for them to, cut our funding, and it's not okay for us to sit here and have to struggle.
Shut down! Shut down! Even freedom will not rest. Oh no!
A day where we will say that school closings and all the other policies that have harmed our communities will no longer be tolerated.
So we have a multiple tiered education system that segregates, and that's wrong.
We closed 50 schools in Black and Latino neighborhoods. How equal is that?
We continue to decide who gets access, who doesn't deserve the same resources. We can reclaim the promise by having conversations.
The most important number that determines whether a child will be able to go to college is not their SAT score, but their zip code.
One of the challenges that we face is dealing with budget cuts. Those high supports, whether it be in reading, language arts, or math, so we've had to cut, specialized teachers that service those students.
So how come we're treated with different standards, with different opportunities?
Not everybody can afford to go to a private school. Not everybody's going to get accepted into a charter school. Public schools are like public institutions. They're part of the communities. They help communities.
Some want to undermine the very institutions that are the heartbeat of our society.
It is our duty to fight.
And moving forward, reclaiming the promise of public education won't come from the Supreme Court in Washington. It will come from communities coming together like we are witnessing in Boston.
To my grandmother, the Brown case was about equity, about access to opportunity, and about access to the American dream. And I've seen for myself how devastating it is to a neighborhood when a school closes.
When the legislature starts to put more and more of the funding burden on local communities, the wealthier communities in terms of property value are going to make out a lot better than those who are in the urban settings like Kansas City, Kansas, or even parts of Wichita.
I am here today, shoulder to shoulder with all of you to fight the fight for these wonderful children. Thank you.
Devaluing the educational opportunities of our children.
Equity in terms of funding, equity in terms of resources, all of the opportunities made available to certain children are made available to all children.
What do you mean, Mommy?
I mean that when you go to school and Miss Butler works very hard to teach you, everyone in your classroom has the best opportunity possible to be the best.